Hello, everyone, all you beautiful, wonderful people. I would like to talk today on my talk show called Allowed to Talk, because we're all allowed to talk. I'd like to talk about the subject fences and what fences are good for and why we should have fences and fences are allowed. There's fences on farms to keep the animals corralled in an area where they need to feed, and you need to know where your livestock is, so a fence is good for that. And one of my favorite sayings, and I have a lot of favorite sayings, is fences make good neighbors. And I've been told before that I struggle with neighbors. Of course, I was raised on a farm, so there was 60 plus acres that I could run and play on, and I didn't have to worry about neighbors because they were up the road pretty far. So maybe that's part of the reason, because of being sort of isolated on the farm, but yet I lived right next to right next door to my grandparents. So fences do make good neighbors. There's people that are millionaires that have a lot of property, and what do they have around their property? A fence. Some have concrete fences, brick fences, or just wooden fences, or even vinyl fences to keep others out and to keep their property pristine, clean, the way they like it. Now, in my neighborhoods, I've lived in 8 different places in my lifetime. The first was a farm, of course, 60 plus acre farm. But then we moved into a trailer court and were right against people. And of course, I would say to my daughter, who probably still has a phobia about staying quiet, and she probably passed that down to her children, I'd say, quiet, shh, the neighbors are going to hear you, the neighbors are going to hear you. And probably that wasn't her first words, but it was one of her first statements. The neighbors are going to hear you. But fences do make good neighbors. And I love that we have in our house right now a wooden fence around 3/4 of the property, and the rest is like a regular, almost like a cow fence. It's not bob wired, but it's wired. But I'd like to have wooden fence if we could afford it. So if I make it big here on YouTube, maybe I can afford to put a wooden fence around the rest of the back of our 1/4 acre that we own, 0.26, so a little more than a quarter, tiny bit more than a 1/4 acre that we have here at our house. But I've been told by my daughters and other people, my husband, that I struggle with neighbors. And, well, if you have good neighbors, you don't struggle with neighbors. When you have neighbors who, if you don't have a fence, they end up with their toys in your yard, their everything in your yard, across the property line, and saying it's theirs after a while. And you know how that can happen. Yes, I do struggle with neighbors when they suck. That's the problem. When I lived beside a very nice lady who was probably 10 or 15 years older than me, a widow, and across the street was a widow. And then on the other side of our acre of land we had at that time on our house, with our house that we had in Pennsylvania, the neighbors to the left of us then, or I should say east of us, he was a retired electrician and his wife was a very nice lady. We talked to them about things and what church they went to, and they didn't go to our church, but we got along really well with them. They were nice people. I'm not saying Christians are all nice people, because that's not true. There's wolves in sheep's clothing all over the world, and some neighbors are power hungry, or their main focus is to earn money, money, money. And the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and sometimes neighbors are doing that too, trying to get ahead, or not pay their rent and don't mow their grass, and they bring their furniture on their front porch because they don't have air conditioning, so they sit out on their front porch all day and night, laughing, singing, playing music way too loud, and they don't mow their grass. It's 8 inches high, and don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, because that's the kind of neighbors that I can't stand. So why? Because of how they live and choose to live, and they don't have regard or care for anyone else. Playing music until 2, 3 in the morning. And yes, my husband had to call the police already about it because they were playing until late in the morning. And I hear kids screaming sometimes till 11, 12 at night out front, playing and having fun. And then there might have been 3 people living in the house, then 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably 10, because most of them were kids that just showed up. Now you tell me what that's all about. I don't think I have to explain that. But love your neighbor as you love yourself. Yes, I love them. But would I live like that? No. Don't they have any respect? Do I have a lot of money? I'm blessed because of where I live, but I am not filthy rich. I have a $40,000 house here with, like I said, a little more than a quarter acre. And our house needs work, a lot of work. And my husband worked on it and has some things done. But we still need to work on the kitchen and the closets and some of the flooring. And if I would rent my house, then I maybe wouldn't take as good care. But every house we ever rented, we left in better repair. And yes, the landlords were nice enough to take whatever we spent on repair off of our rental, off of our payment for the month, our monthly rental. But there's people now, neighbors I have here, that don't pay their rent. And then when they get any extra money, like you know what I'm talking about, stimulus or money that's future tax, but they think it's extra when they find out when they do their taxes in 2022 for 2021 that it wasn't extra money, it was just given early. They think it's all like they should have what people work 30, 40 years for just by, I don't know, just because they exist. So guess what? Fences make good neighbors. And if I wouldn't have a fence, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I do. I tell you, because neighbors are pathetic without a fence, a lot of them. Yes, I struggle with neighbors, and I wish I had 60 acres of land and could be rich like some who think they're oppressed, but they're filthy rich, like some of the people who grew up doing talk shows in this country, the United States of America. So yes, I'm going to close the show today with this statement. Fences make good neighbors. And I hope you have a wonderful day.